My nurse wife was on the night shift and was caught having an affair with a doctor by a patient taking secret photos. I was furious and confronted my wife, but she acted as if nothing had happened, her face full of impatience. It was just acting. Your mother is still in Dr. Gui's hands. If it wasn't to cure your mother, do you think I'd be willing? Later, I contracted a terminal illness and overheard their conversation in the room. His poison is about to take effect, and then your treatment will kill his mother. All the property will be ours. Humiliated, I hid in the closet and died bleeding from all 7 orifices. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the night of my wife's night shift. At this moment, I am guarding the ward. My mother has kidney disease and desperately needs a kidney transplant. Bai Wan is on duty in the next room. Patients in the corridor were making noise. I felt a fire burning in my heart. I was reborn. Before, I never thought that Bai Wan, who I had been married to for only half a year, would betray me, humiliate me, and even kill me. In the previous life, after I found out about their dirty deeds, Bai Wan coaxed me in every possible way, falsely claiming that she was just acting with Wang Ji to get him to treat my mother. As a result, in the days that followed, she actually gave me chronic poison. It wasn't until the moment I died from the poison that I realized that Bai Wan married me just to cover up her affair with Wang Ji. Looking at my sleeping mother in the hospital bed, I clenched my fists. The show is about to begin. At that time, a patient rang the bell for a long time, but no medical staff entered the ward. So he pushed open the door of the clinic and found Bai Wan and Wang Ji immersed in love. He was furious and immediately took a video. Then he questioned loudly, "I was wondering why no one came to save lives. It turns out you were busy making babies here. Is there anyone in charge?" Bai Wan ran away in a hurry, and Wang Ji also straightened his white coat and said a few words to appease the patient's anger. When I heard the sound and saw this scene, I directly confronted Bai Wan, but she looked at me with an indifferent expression. "Can you be serious? Your thoughts are so dirty. Always suspicious. I really misjudged you." I pointed out that the buttons on her collar were buttoned wrong, but she became angry and said, "Your mother is still in Dr. Gui's hands. If it wasn't to cure your mother, do you think I'd be willing? Anyway, I haven't done anything to betray you, believe it or not." I was very flustered at the time. I wanted Wang Ji to treat my mother well, but I was afraid to imagine whether Bai Wan had really betrayed me, and I didn't get any evidence. Because the patient was discharged the next day, I didn't know what he had filmed on his phone. From then on, I took care of my mother while keeping an eye on that male doctor. His name was Wang Ji, 48 years old, the chief physician of the nephrology department, nicknamed Wang the Knife. Usually gentle and refined, he was decisive and meticulous during surgery. He was indeed very charming. But he also had a flaw, that is, he was extremely afraid of his wife. It is said that his father-in-law was a leader in the medical industry. He couldn't afford not to be afraid. Usually, Wang Ji and Bai Wan didn't have any ambiguous behavior in the hospital. This gradually put my mind at ease, and I thought I had misunderstood Bai Wan. After all, we had only been married for half a year. Moreover, my conditions were not bad, and Bai Wan had no reason to betray me. But my health deteriorated. Bai Wan took me for several examinations and said that I had no major problems, just over-fatigue. I didn't take it seriously. One day a month later, my mother was critically ill. I endured the sorrow and went home to prepare her shroud. But as soon as I opened the closet, I heard the door open. Then came the voices of Bai Wan and Wang Ji. "Brother Wang, that dead ghost is not at home today. Come in quickly," Wang Ji said with a wicked smile. "He's been so busy lately. His mother is dying. He has no time to care about you." I was terrified, feeling that these two had a conspiracy. So I hid in the closet and took out my phone to record. The two lay directly on our wedding bed, completely ignoring the wedding photo above the head of the bed. I clenched my fists, really wanting to rush out and tear these two dogs apart. But what Bai Wan said next made me feel like I had fallen into an ice cave. "His poison is about to take effect, and then his mother will be killed by you, then all the property will be ours." Wang Ji chuckled and said, "You are already pregnant with my child, and when I divorce that old hag at home, we will fly away together." Bai Wan with a delicate smile. "Darling, you still know you have a child." Boom! Countless fireworks exploded in my mind. There was too much information for me to accept. Bai Wan poisoned me? My mother was killed by Wang Ji? Bai Wan is pregnant with his child? Just as I was about to dial the police, I suddenly felt severe pain in my internal organs, and then a sweetness in my throat, and I spewed out a large mouthful of blood. I staggered and pushed open the closet, and cursed at the surprised eyes of the two dogs. Bai Wan, you bitch! How dare you murder your husband? Bai Wan was startled at first, but seeing me covered in blood, she knew that my end was near. She leaned into Wang Ji's arms and said to me, Wei Kai, didn't expect it. I added seasoning to your favorite chicken soup. The several examinations you had were all Wang Ji helped to change the diagnosis, so no one knows you took poison. Wei Kai, you are dead, your mother is also dead. Then all your inheritance will be left to me, and the baby in my belly, giggle. Let me tell you a secret. The child is already 3 months old. Not yours. I felt dizzy and fell directly to the ground, spitting blood. Wang Ji said gloomily, Let me tell you another secret. Haven't you been helping your mother find a kidney source for the past 6 months? In fact, Bai Wan and your mother were already successfully matched. How could she be willing to donate a kidney to your mother? Ha ha ha. I trembled and wanted to grab the two of them, but finally spat out a mouthful of blood, and finally my soul flew away. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the night the patient secretly filmed them. The hallway was already filled with loud voices. I pursed my lips and walked out. I saw Bai Wan sneaking away. Wang Ji was talking to the patient. After a while, the patient returned to his room. And I also went into his room. I spent 1,000 yuan to get the video he had just taken. In this life, I will never make trouble again. I will make this adulterous couple wish they were dead. Bit by bit. Back in the ward, I saw Bai Wan waiting for me. Her eyes were filled with panic as she asked me, Honey, where did you go? Why did you leave Mom here alone? I smiled and said, I went to the bathroom. Aren't you on duty? Why are you here? Bai Wan pursed her lips and said awkwardly, There's nothing going on right now. Didn't you hear any noise just now? I pretended to be ignorant and said, I heard it, but I was in the bathroom and didn't go out to see what happened. What happened? No, nothing. Bai Wan seemed relieved and then walked away as if nothing had happened. What she didn't know was that I was clenching my teeth so hard that my molars were about to break. If it were just a simple revenge, I could directly upload the video to the internet and ruin their reputations. Or send the video to Wang Ji's wife and cause chaos in his family. But compared to the suffering I endured in my previous life, such revenge is too light. I quietly backed up the video and then immediately transferred my mother to another hospital. Bai Wan rushed over and questioned me. Mom is being matched for a kidney. Wang Ji is also the best nephrologist in the province. Why are you transferring her to another hospital? I smiled and said, It's been several months of matching, and there's still no suitable one. I'm taking Mom to Beijing to see. Alas, so many people die every day in the country. Why isn't there a suitable one? By the way, didn't you also have a test? Can the results match Mom successfully? Bai Wan's eyes flickered, and she said flusteredly, Of course it didn't work. Even you didn't succeed. How would I have a chance? I sneered in my heart. Soon you will have the opportunity to give my mother a kidney transplant. During this period, I went to other hospitals for a full body checkup and breathed a sigh of relief when I learned that there were no problems. At this time, Bai Wan had not poisoned me yet. My mother was a little surprised and asked me why I transferred hospitals. I smiled and said that Beijing has better medical resources. Our family has money. As long as there is a kidney source, we can have surgery as soon as possible. My mother breathed a sigh of relief, but seemed to see something. She squinted her eyes and said, If Mom is gone, be nice to Bai Wan. I nodded gently, sighing in my heart. After investigating these days, I often discover a shocking secret. I am not my mother's child. Bai Wan is her biological daughter. Back then, after my father died, the family business was in chaos, and everyone was eyeing the child in my mother's belly. If it was a daughter, then our Wei family would not let my mother control the group. My mother knew in advance that she was pregnant with a daughter, so she operated in advance, switching the prince with a raccoon cat. On the day of production, she sent Bai Wan away and brought me back. That's how my mother gained a firm foothold. After more than 20 years of operation, the Wei family was driven away by her. The entire group belongs to our mother and daughter. She thought of her biological daughter who was living outside, so she found her and let her marry me. This also fulfilled her regret, and the fertile water would not flow to other people's fields. But my mother did not tell Bai Wan about this, otherwise she would feel resentment. It's just that my mother never expected that she would get a terminal illness. She couldn't bear to let Bai Wan donate a kidney to her. So there was what happened later. During my investigation, I uncovered a secret regarding the relationship between me, Bai Wan, and Wang Ji. I was the one who was the third party. Bai Wan was Wang Ji's student. They secretly became involved during their time at medical university. However, Wang Ji, being married, dared not make it public, and Bai Wan willingly followed him. Later, Bai Wan's family pressed her for marriage, and my mother secretly introduced us. Leading to our marriage, Bai Wan had no affection for me. I was merely her nominal husband, her little piggy bank. No wonder she later ruthlessly tried to kill me, plotting to seize my family fortune. Moreover, at this very moment, Bai Wan is probably 2 months pregnant, right? She and Wang Ji must already know about the pregnancy, right? Well then, the show has only just begun. Wang Ji's wife works in the medical association, and his daughter Wang Jinyao is 18 this year and just started college. I caught a glimpse of her from afar, a tender and radiant age, utterly charming. So, I deliberately approached Wang Jinyao. I am tall, handsome, and generous with my money. To this kind of inexperienced college girl. Is practically a domineering CEO descending from the heavens. Some might think, what kind of man takes revenge on someone's daughter? I curled my lips, thinking to myself, in my past life, I was utterly useless, not even a man. In this life reborn, I'm no longer human. I will show Wang Ji and Bai Wan just how terrifying a useless man can be when he becomes ruthless. This day, Wang Jinyao nestled in my arms, shyly saying, "Honey, I want to introduce you to my family." I stroked her head gently and said, "When the time is right, I will definitely pay them a visit." Wang Jinyao nodded and went to take a shower. That evening, Bai Wan wasn't on night duty, so I waited for her downstairs at the hospital. She and Wang Ji walked downstairs, maintaining a clear distance between them. I smiled, opened my arms, and embraced Bai Wan. Bai Wan looked at Wang Ji with some embarrassment and a hint of panic. "Teacher Wang, this is my husband, Wei Kai, here to pick me up from work." Wang Ji, with a sinister and disdainful look in his eyes, shook my hand and said provocatively, "Bai Wan works very hard, even after work. We cooperate very well every night." I gripped his hand tightly and said, "Then please cultivate her more, Brother Wang. If you could let Bai Wan have fewer night shifts, that would be great. We're planning to have a baby soon, so you'll have to leave the evenings for me." Wang Ji's expression changed, and a look of shock washed over him. He must know about Bai Wan being 2 months pregnant. But if Bai Wan and I have too much intimacy, it could harm the baby. Without waiting for him to speak, I said to Bai Wan, "Date night tonight. Let's go clubbing at a hotel." Bai Wan was startled, instinctively touching her belly and saying, "Why would we go clubbing out of the blue?" I put my arm around Bai Wan's waist and said, "You've been too tired lately? Let's go relax. Take a day off tomorrow, and I'll take you bungee jumping." Bai Wan's face turned pale, and Wang Ji's lips twitched. He couldn't think of a better reason to refute me for the moment. That night, after returning from the bar and Bai Wan had taken a shower, she saw that I wanted to hold her and pursed her lips, saying, "Honey, I'm too tired. Let's get some rest." I pretended to nod in disappointment, secretly delighted. As for Bai Wan, so filthy and disgusting, no ghost would want to touch her. The next day, she rushed out the door, saying, "Honey, no bungee jumping today. Teacher Wang has a surgery and needs me to help." Looking at Bai Wan's fleeing figure, I sneered inwardly. Soon, that day will come. I knew Bai Wan was a medical worker and had signed a voluntary organ donation contract upon her employment. It just so happened that she and my daughter were a match. Then don't blame me for being impolite. Slowly turning the screw, I'll savor the show. I installed a Trojan horse program on Bai Wan's phone in advance, and I knew every detail of their daily chats. That evening, Bai Wan brought me chicken soup, pretending to be concerned and said, "Honey, I stewed your favorite chicken soup. You've been looking tired lately, so have some to nourish yourself." Looking at her expectant look, I smiled and said, "My baby is so thoughtful. It's a little hot now, I'll drink it later. Love you. Bai Wan didn't suspect anything and turned to the kitchen to wash the dishes. I took advantage of her inattention and poured the soup into the toilet. Lying in bed, we each looked at our phones. Her chat history with Wang Ji was crystal clear. Bai Wan sent a message saying, "Is your medicine really effective? How many days will it take to work?" Wang Ji replied, "About a month. Don't worry, it won't leave any traces. When the time comes, we can get his money and elope. I'm so looking forward to that day. Will you really get a divorce? I've been waiting for this day for 10 years. We'll talk about that later. Have you hidden the medicine well?" "Don't worry, it's hidden in the bathroom ceiling." Turning off her phone, Bai Wan's breathing was a little rapid, probably because she was excited, and I also stayed up all night. From their chat, I learned that Wang Ji's wife was going on a business trip tomorrow. The two agreed to go to Wang Ji's house after work tomorrow evening. And I also sent a message to Wang Jinyao. "Baby, don't stay in the dormitory tomorrow. Come to your house for a visit tomorrow night." "Really? Then I'll ask if my parents are home." "No need to ask. Give them a surprise." "I'll listen to you." I stretched. "Tomorrow it will be tomorrow. I will give you a big surprise." The next evening, I took Wang Jinyao to her house. Wang Jinyao was a little surprised and disappointed that her parents were not at home. We sat in the living room, opened a bottle of red wine, chatting and drinking. Her smile was like a spring flower, delicate and charming, making people feel pity and love. However, my heart was only filled with the flames of revenge. Wang Jinyao was, after all, a naive college student. After a few glasses of wine, her cheeks flushed, and her eyes became blurred. She leaned on my shoulder and said softly, "Honey, I really want to marry you." I stroked her hair and said gently, "I like you too, Jinyao." But in my heart, I was planning the next step. As time passed, Wang Jinyao became more and more drunk. She stood up swaying, wanting to go to the bathroom. I quickly supported her and took her to the bedroom. She lay on the bed, closed her eyes, breathing evenly, and had already fallen into a deep sleep. Looking at her pure face, a trace of guilt flashed in my heart. But soon, this trace of guilt was overwhelmed by the determination to revenge. I quickly turned off the lights, took out the surveillance camera I had prepared from my pocket, and carefully installed it in the corner of the room. This surveillance camera will record everything that happens next and become powerful evidence for my revenge. After installing the surveillance camera, I took out my phone, logged into Bai Wan's social media clone, and sent a message to Wang Ji. "I'm back first. You come home quickly? I'm waiting for you." After sending the message, I quietly left and disappeared into the darkness. After receiving the message, Wang Ji immediately replied, "Okay, I'll be home soon." Wang Ji believed what I said because I had contacted Bai Wan in advance and asked her to go home and get my ID. I lied and said I had a stomachache and needed to go to the hospital. Bai Wan was overjoyed, thinking my poison had taken effect, and hurried home to get my documents. In that time gap, Wang Ji probably thought Bai Wan was summoning him, so he couldn't wait to put down his work and rushed home. When Wang Ji opened the door and walked into the bedroom, he saw a figure lying on the bed. Thinking it was Bai Wan, he pounced on it without hesitation. I sat in the car watching the surveillance footage on my phone. My eyebrows rose. The game has begun. Just then, Bai Wan couldn't find me, and thinking about her date with Wang Ji, she also came to his house. Bai Wan had a key to Wang Ji's house. She opened the door, but she didn't expect to see such a scene. She was dumbfounded, standing at the door, motionless. Wang Ji was also shocked to see Bai Wan, and he quickly got up from the bed. Bai Wan said with a trembling voice, "Wang Ji, she." Her eyes were filled with anger and despair. Wang Ji said, "Huanglan Ly. I thought it was you." Wang Jinyao was awakened by the noise. She opened her eyes, saw the scene in front of her, and screamed in fright. In this moment of chaos, Wang Ji's wife also rushed back. Of course, all of this was arranged by me in advance. I sent the video of Bai Wan and Wang Ji to her phone in advance. Then I told her that there would be a surprise at your house tonight. Wang Ji's wife rushed back. As soon as she entered the door, she saw this unbearable scene in front of her. She was furious, her eyes filled with anger and despair. Wang Ji's wife cursed. "Wang Ji, you bastard! Are you even human? Wang Ji's face was pale, and he stammered, "Wife, listen to me. This is really a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding? Do you think I'm a fool? I won't let you go." The more Wang Ji's wife spoke, the angrier she became, and she raised her hand to hit Wang Ji. Seeing this, Baiwan quickly stepped forward to stop her. She didn't want to see Wang Ji get hurt. After all, they had a 10-year relationship. However, Wang Ji's wife had lost her mind. She waved her hand forcefully, and the fruit knife directly slashed at Baiwan. Baiwan screamed and fell into a pool of blood. Wang Ji looked at this scene in horror. He wanted to help Baiwan, but he didn't dare to approach. Wang Ji's wife was also frightened by her own behavior. She threw away the fruit knife in her hand and collapsed on the ground, crying. Wang Jinyao cowered in the corner in horror, tears streaming down her face. "Mom and Dad, I hid in the dark, watching all of this through the surveillance. My heart was filled with the pleasure of revenge, but also a hint of complex emotions. I knew that my revenge plan was only half successful, but the road ahead was still long." Baiwan was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. Wang Ji and his wife were also taken away by the police for investigation. Wang Jinyao, on the other hand, was plunged into deep fear and confusion. She called me, but I didn't answer any of them. In the hospital, Baiwan's condition was critical. She had lost too much blood and was on the verge of death. The doctors tried their best to save her, but her fate remained uncertain. I rushed over with Baiwan's organ donation form. What a pity, Baiwan didn't die. When I arrived at the door of Baiwan's ward, I was surprised to find that she had actually woken up. She was leaning against the headboard, looking quite good, although her face was a little pale. Her eyes revealed a hint of confusion and unease. I stood at the door, quietly watching her. A feeling of indescribable emotion welled up in my heart. At this moment, the doctor walked in and gave Baiwan a checkup. Baiwan looked at the doctor nervously, as if waiting for good news. However, the doctor's words made her feel like she had fallen into an ice cave. "Although your life is not in danger, I regret to inform you that you have had a miscarriage." The doctor's voice was flat and indifferent, but it hit Baiwan's heart like a heavy hammer. Baiwan's eyes widened, her face full of disbelief. Her hands slowly touched her stomach, where a life had once been conceived, a secret between her and Wang Ji. Her lips trembled, and tears welled up in her eyes. She never thought that the child would be gone like this. And just then, she saw me standing at the door. She was instantly stunned. Her eyes filled with horror and guilt. Her mouth trembled, and she said with difficulty, "Husband, let me explain." I slowly walked into the ward, my face expressionless. I said softly, "No need to explain, I know everything." My voice was calm, but it revealed a sense of determination and indifference. Baiwan looked at me in shock. She couldn't believe that I already knew everything. Her eyes were full of doubt and fear, and then she suddenly realized and asked, "Did you do all this? Are you trying to get revenge on me?" The corners of my mouth turned up slightly, revealing a sneer. "Don't worry, this is nothing. If you can use your phone, take a look at the news." After I finished speaking, I handed her my phone. Baiwan took the phone with trembling hands, and when she saw the news on the screen, her face instantly turned pale. I had previously posted the video of them in the hospital online, and it immediately became a trending topic. Countless netizens left messages scolding the two of them. "These two people are so shameless. Doctors and nurses are actually doing this kind of thing in the hospital. It's simply morally corrupt. That woman is disgusting. I heard she has a husband, and she's still doing this kind of thing. Shameful. This male doctor is not a good person either. He has a family and is still messing around outside. What a Janan scumbag." Baiwan looked at these comments, her hands trembling non-stop. She knew that she had become the target of public criticism, and her reputation was completely ruined. She looked at me in despair, tears streaming down her face. Why did you do this?" I looked at her pitiful appearance, and there was no pity in my heart. "Why? You should ask yourself. You betrayed me and tried to harm my life. Did you ever think about my feelings? This is all your own fault." Baiwan leaned weakly on the hospital bed. She knew that she could no longer salvage everything. And I did not leave the ward, coldly watching Baiwan. Her face was pale, and her eyes were full of regret and helplessness. Having just experienced a miscarriage and the online media storm, she looked particularly haggard at this moment. I took another piece of evidence directly from my bag, which was about Wang Ji's illegal activities. It was also what I had been investigating during this time. I threw the evidence on the bed in front of her. The slight sound of the paper was particularly harsh in the quiet ward. Bai Wan picked up the evidence with trembling hands, her expression uncertain. Her eyes switched back and forth between the evidence and me, as if she couldn't believe that things would develop to such a point. The evidence showed that Wang Ji had accepted bribes by taking advantage of his position as the director of nephrology. Some pharmaceutical representatives privately gave him a lot of money and goods in order to get him to prescribe more drugs from their company. Wang Ji not only gladly accepted, but also deliberately favored these drugs with vested interests when prescribing, regardless of the patient's actual condition and needs. In addition, Wang Ji also manipulated the surgical arrangements. For patients who gave him benefits, he would prioritize surgery, even jumping the queue, making patients who really needed surgery wait longer. This not only seriously affected the normal order of the hospital, but also brought great risks to patients' health. Also, Wang Ji also participated in improper transactions in the hospital's procurement process. He colluded with some medical device suppliers, designated the purchase of their high-priced products, and obtained huge kickbacks from them. These inferior medical devices may malfunction during use, posing a great threat to the patient's treatment. Can you not submit this evidence? I shook my head and said with a smile, impossible. You've done so many wicked things. Of course you have to be punished. A flash of despair crossed Bai Wan's eyes, and she asked again, then what exactly do you want? The corners of my mouth tilted up slightly, revealing a sneer. My mom needs surgery urgently. She used to need 1 kidney, now she needs 2. Bai Wan sighed upon hearing my words and said, understood, I'll satisfy you. I was a little surprised, never expecting Bai Wan would be willing to pay such a huge price for Wang Ji. I couldn't help but ask, how did you and Wang Ji end up together back then? Bai Wan was silent for a moment, a look of reminiscence in her eyes. During her time at medical university, she was still a student full of dreams. Bai Wan's adoptive parents died early, and she lacked love since childhood, her heart longing for someone to give her warmth and support. Back then, Wang Ji was graceful and knowledgeable on the podium, every word seeming to open up a whole new world. Bai Wan was deeply attracted by his mature charm, and from that moment on, a seed of love was quietly planted in her heart. Once, Bai Wan encountered a difficult problem in the library, and Wang Ji happened to pass by. He patiently answered Bai Wan's questions, and at that moment, Bai Wan's heart raced involuntarily as she looked at Wang Ji's gentle eyes. From then on, their contact gradually increased. They discussed academic problems together and strolled along the shady paths of the campus together. Wang Ji's maturity and steadiness gave Bai Wan's lonely heart a sense of belonging. She followed him closely, even knowing he had a family, and willingly became the woman behind him. They secretly dated in the corners of the campus, enjoying their moments of sweetness. Those days, though filled with unease and guilt, were incredibly happy for Bai Wan. Later, Bai Wan's family pressed her hard, and your mom secretly introduced us, so Bai Wan married me. But she had no feelings for me. I was just her husband in name only, her little treasury. She and Wang Ji maintained contact, and they planned to fly away when the time was right. I listened to Bai Wan's description, shaking my head helplessly. This fool doesn't even know when she's been sold. I didn't speak, but silently took out my phone and played another video for her to watch. In the video, Wang Ji was sitting in a luxurious private room, the lights dim and smoke swirling. He was sitting with several partners around a large round table, covered with expensive food and wine. One of the pot-bellied men looked at Wang Ji lecherously and said, "Director Wang, I heard you have a little beauty named Bai Wan by your side. She's really alluring. If she could spend a night with me, this cooperation would be a done deal." Hearing this, Wang Ji revealed a sinister smile on his face, and said without hesitation, "Haha, she's just a plaything. As long as you're happy, brother, feel free to play with her. She's just a vain woman who'll take the bait if you give her some sugar. Last time, I arranged for her to contact a wealthy patient's family and hinted at her taking benefits from the family. She did it without saying a word, and then we divided the money together. She even happily thought she got a good deal. Another tall, thin partner chimed in, "Director Wang, you really have the means. But is this woman really that good?" Wang Ji snorted dismissively. "What's so good about her? She's just decent-looking and passable in bed. For our benefit, what does she count for?" Once, during an important surgery, I deliberately arranged for her to assist, but actually, I just wanted her to do something at a critical moment, such as deliberately delaying time or creating some small trouble so we could get more kickbacks from the drug reps. She foolishly thought I valued her ability. Then, Wang Ji said triumphantly, "Also, when our hospital purchases medical equipment, I have her contact the suppliers and hint that they give us benefits." She obediently acts as the middleman, not realizing she's being used by us. She thinks I'm good to her, but I'm just using her beauty and naivety. The pot-bellied man laughed heartily. "Director Wang, your methods are brilliant. What if this Bai Wan doesn't want to accompany me?" Wang Ji said nonchalantly. "Doesn't want to? That's easy. I have plenty of ways to make her listen. I can threaten her. If she doesn't listen, I'll break up with her. She cares about me so much, she definitely won't dare to resist." Bai Wan watched the video, her eyes widening, her face full of disbelief, her body beginning to tremble, and her lips shivering. "No, impossible. How could he say that about me?" Bai Wan's voice was full of shock and pain. I looked at Bai Wan like that, without any sympathy in my heart. "Now you see his true colors, right? He doesn't love you at all, he's just using you," I said coldly. Bai Wan burst into tears, and she leaned weakly on the hospital bed, her eyes filled with regret. "How could I be so stupid? I actually betrayed you and hurt my family for such a man." Bai Wan sobbed, her voice hoarse and desperate. She lowered her head and cried silently. Then suddenly, she burst into tears, her tears gushing out like a flood. Her body trembled violently, her hands clutching the sheets tightly, as if trying to grasp the last glimmer of hope. "I really know I was wrong. Please forgive me. I'm willing to spend the rest of my life making up for my mistakes." Bai Wan pleaded, her voice trembling and desperate, her eyes swollen like two ripe peaches, her face covered with tears, and her hair disheveled with pain. "We can start over. I'll treat you well in the future, give you children, we'll live a happy life together. I'll be a good wife, and I'll never make you sad again." Bai Wan grabbed my clothes tightly, her eyes full of expectation and pleading, her fingers turning white from the effort, as if grasping at the last straw. I looked at Bai Wan's pitiful appearance, without the slightest pity in my heart. "Regret? It's too late to talk about regret now. What you've done is unforgivable." I shook my head and said, "Your compensation is meaningless. You poisoned me, wanted to murder me, wanted to kill my mother, and take away my family property. How can you make up for these things?" Bai Wan was speechless. She lowered her head and cried silently. I turned to leave the ward, and Bai Wan suddenly stopped me. "Wait, I have something else to say." I stopped and looked at her. Bai Wan wiped away her tears and said, "I know I was wrong. I'm willing to pay the price for my actions. But please don't hurt Wang Ji." Hearing her words, I asked with some surprise, "You're still thinking about him even now? Interesting." Bai Wan shook her head and said, "I love him. No matter what he did, I love him. I'm willing to bear all the consequences for him." I shook my head. This woman was trapped in the swamp of love, unable to extricate herself. For Wang Ji, she was willing to sacrifice everything, but she didn't know that she was just a pawn in Wang Ji's hands. Walking out of the ward, I didn't hesitate at all and directly submitted the evidence of Wang Ji's illegal activities. Even if Bai Wan donated a kidney, I wouldn't let him off the hook. That evening, Bai Wan hanged herself in the hospital bathroom. When I heard the news, I didn't feel a trace of pity, only a kind of cold indifference. This woman, her actions were unforgivable, and her ending was entirely her own fault. According to the organ donation terms, I directly removed Bai Wan's 2 kidneys and then arranged for someone to send them to the hospital in Beijing. However, I had instructed them not to perform the surgery on my mother until I returned to sign the consent forms. Wang Ji was arrested, and his wife was also arrested for harming Bai Wan. This once infinitely glamorous family was now plunged into chaos. As for Wang Jinyao, that once innocent college student, she also went mad due to this series of blows. Her world had completely collapsed. She couldn't accept what her father and Bai Wan had done, nor could she accept being caught up in this terrible storm. I went to the detention center and met Wang Ji. He looked very disheveled. His eyes filled with madness and despair. He looked at me and asked in a hoarse voice, "You did this, didn't you? Why would you do this?" I smiled, my eyes full of coldness and sarcasm. "Why? You should ask yourself. When you were entangled in the hospital, did you ever think that I was in the next room? You poisoned me, wanted to kill me, and even wanted to kill my mother and seize my family property. Did you ever think about my feelings? Did you ever think about the consequences of your actions?" Wang Ji was stunned. He stared blankly at me, seemingly unable to believe everything he had heard. His lips trembled, wanting to say something, but unable to utter a word. I lowered my head and chuckled. "Jinyao is doing well. I will take good care of her in the future." Wang Ji was instantly dumbfounded. His eyes filled with fear and despair. He cried and begged me to spare Wang Jinyao. He said he knew he was wrong, and he was willing to pay any price for his actions, as long as I could spare his daughter. I looked at Wang Ji's pitiful appearance, feeling not a trace of sympathy. Wang Ji looked at me in despair. He knew there was no turning back. His tears flowed non-stop. He regretted his past actions, regretted not cherishing his family and career, and regretted falling into the abyss of desire from which he could not escape. I turned and left the detention center, feeling no ripples in my heart. I knew my path of revenge was not yet over. I went straight to the hospital in Beijing without hesitation, carrying the cooler containing Bai Wan's kidneys in my hand. I walked into my mother's ward with a blank expression. She was lying weakly on the bed, her eyes full of anticipation and unease. In front of her, I slowly opened the cooler and said with a smile, "The kidney source matched successfully. Donated by Bai Wan, 2 of them." My mother was instantly shocked and petrified. Her eyes widened, her face full of disbelief. Then her body began to tremble slightly, crying and twitching. "Wan, Mom was wrong. Mom didn't want you to donate. Mom regrets it." I smiled, and then, in front of her, I crushed both kidneys without warning. The cooler was instantly filled with a bloody mess. My mother was completely dumbfounded, her mouth wide open, but unable to make any sound. Looking at my mother's appearance, I felt no pity, but instead filled with anger. I said with a smile, "Still not telling me the truth? Let me tell you, I wasn't adopted. I was kidnapped and sold. You spent a lot of money to buy me, right? My good mother." My mom looked at me incredulously. I lowered my head and said softly, "Dust to dust, earth to earth. Just die and everything will be liberated." Walking out of the ward, I didn't hesitate at all and directly submitted the evidence of Wang Ji's illegal activities. Even if Bai Wan donated a kidney, I wouldn't let him off the hook. That evening, Bai Wan hanged herself in the hospital bathroom. When I heard the news, I didn't feel a trace of pity, only a kind of cold indifference. This woman, her actions were unforgivable, and her ending was entirely her own fault. According to the organ donation terms, I directly removed Bai Wan's 2 kidneys and then arranged for someone to send them to the hospital in Beijing. However, I had instructed them not to perform the surgery on my mother until I returned to sign the consent forms. Wang Ji was arrested, and his wife was also arrested for harming Bai Wan. This once infinitely glamorous family was now plunged into chaos. As for Wang Jinyao, that once innocent college student, she also went mad due to this series of blows. Her world had completely collapsed. She couldn't accept what her father and Bai Wan had done, nor could she accept being caught up in this terrible storm. I went to the detention center and met Wang Ji. He looked very disheveled, his eyes filled with madness and despair. He looked at me and asked in a hoarse voice, "You did this, didn't you? Why would you do this?" I smiled, my eyes full of coldness and sarcasm. "Why? You should ask yourself. When you were entangled in the hospital, did you ever think that I was in the next room? You poisoned me, wanted to kill me, and even wanted to kill my mother and seize my family property. Did you ever think about my feelings? Did you ever think about the consequences of your actions?" Wang Ji was stunned. He stared blankly at me, seemingly unable to believe everything he had heard. His lips trembled, wanting to say something, but unable to utter a word. I lowered my head and chuckled. "Jinyao is doing well. I will take good care of her in the future." Wang Ji was instantly dumbfounded. His eyes filled with fear and despair. He cried and begged me to spare Wang Jinyao. He said he knew he was wrong, and he was willing to pay any price for his actions, as long as I could spare his daughter. I looked at Wang Ji's pitiful appearance, feeling not a trace of sympathy. Wang Ji looked at me in despair. He knew there was no turning back. His tears flowed non-stop. He regretted his past actions, regretted not cherishing his family and career, and regretted falling into the abyss of desire from which he could not escape. I turned and left the detention center, feeling no ripples in my heart. I knew my path of revenge was not yet over. I went straight to the hospital in Beijing without hesitation, carrying the cooler containing Bai Wan's kidneys in my hand. I walked into my mother's ward with a blank expression. She was lying weakly on the bed, her eyes full of anticipation and unease. In front of her, I slowly opened the cooler and said with a smile, the kidney source matched successfully. Donated by Bai Wan, 2 of them. My mother was instantly shocked and petrified. Her eyes widened, her face full of disbelief. Then her body began to tremble slightly, crying and twitching. Wan, Mom was wrong. Mom didn't want you to donate. Mom regrets it. I smiled. And then, in front of her, I crushed both kidneys without warning. The cooler was instantly filled with a bloody mess. My mother was completely dumbfounded, her mouth wide open, but unable to make any sound. Looking at my mother's appearance, I felt no pity, but instead filled with anger. I said with a smile, "Still not telling me the truth? Let me tell you, I wasn't adopted. I was kidnapped and sold. You spent a lot of money to buy me, right? My good mother." My mom looked at me incredulously. I lowered my head and said softly, "Dust to dust, earth to earth. Just die and everything will be liberated."